advertising, sales promotions, trade fairs, personal selling, and so on. So some of the things I have already discussed, while rest I leave it to you. Okay. Today we'll discuss some more things, but before that, uh, our last lecture was on the Wednesday, and I got a message from a student. He was asking about that. What should we do in case there are some issues related to you know some negative connotations about a brand name in different cultures? So that is a very, very valid point. In fact, if you remember, I had given you uh, an example that when the word Coca-Cola, right, as it is being pronounced in Mandarin or the Chinese language, it gets translated as biting the wax tadpole. So that is you know a very, very negative thing for a brand which is associated with the soft drinks. So in such case, what the company did, that they researched the Mandarin or the Chinese language, which is pictographic in nature, right? So, and it is obviously a very, very comprehensive language with so many different characters. And they came up with a solution wherein they, uh, the phonetics, I mean, the way you have to pronounce Coca-Cola, it was slightly modified in such a way that the negative connotations were done away with. Similarly, another example which I quoted at the beginning, that the Indian car Ambassador Nova, it was, Ambassador was uh, the general or the ordinary version, whereas Nova was a somewhat I would say luxury version of Ambassador car, which were very much prevalent, and especially even today you may find some of these with the bureaucrats and the political leaders. So when it was being exported uh, to, I think if I remember correctly, Spain. So the word Nova, when it was being translated into Spanish, it meant it meant that something which does not go right. So associating an automobile with a word or with a phrase which means or which says it does not go, obviously is like can prove to be disastrous for the brand. So this word Noah had to be dropped off. So similarly, uh, the companies, they try to manage with the brand names, and sometimes if at all it is necessary, they even come up with a new brand name specifically for that particular market. So that was a very, very valid question. Now we'll get back to our discussion and we'll move ahead with the pricing part. Now when we talk about the international pricing, as you can see that this is the only element of marketing mix which brings in the revenues, while rest of the elements, whether it is production of products and services, whether it is promotion, whether it is distribution, all of them would entail costs. And pricing is an important aspect which brings in the revenues, which tries to recover the expenditure that has been incurred on the other elements of marketing mix. Since you have already been exposed to the concept of pricing in the core marketing paper, kindly tell me what are the different functions which pricing as an element of marketing mix performs. What functions are performed by pricing? Yes, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Pricing क्या क्या functions perform करती है? Although it is mentioned here in this slide which I am sharing with you,
Sir, countering competition, sir.
very
Market
very
share
important, very important.
and sir, sales volume, sir.
Okay, sales volume, countering competition. Then there are so many things which are mentioned here because pricing is not just an element कि आपने एक product को जो है price कर दिया उसका you give it a price tag. It goes much beyond that. अगर आप economics के student ने खाली for example, so pricing is all about putting a price tag on a product or a service and to see whether it is affordable to the markets or not. But when we talk about marketing management, pricing assumes a much more significant position. It is not just an element of bringing in revenues. It is a very very important tool of differentiating the product on the basis of pricing. If it is not possible to differentiate on the basis of features and attributes, then you have to differentiate your product on the basis of the price that you are charging. So it is also a competitive tool. It gives you that competitive edge over others, and it becomes all the more significant in the international markets because you have to deliver a quality product or service, and at the same time you have to stay competitive. You cannot be overpriced unless the nature of product is such that if it is being priced at a premium, then it should add value to the image of the product or the brand which is being sold. Say for example, in case of jewelry items, in case of exclusive perfumes, in case of fashion or fashionable labels or brands for apparels and so on. In such cases, you may go for a somewhat premium pricing or high end pricing, but in general, when it comes to pricing, you have to stay competitive. Your price, you should be offering the best quality at a given price. At the same time, because of the price, you have a certain I would say stand when it comes to positioning your product, how you want to position your product, whether you want to position it as a premium product, whether you want to position it as an economy product. So a lot depends. Like, even the positioning of a product is dependent on its pricing, market segmentation, market share dynamics. All these things are important. So the the apparently ordinary or simple looking issue of pricing has so many different dimensions which have to be looked into, and that's why that is the perhaps the reason why pricing becomes more important, especially in the international markets. Another important reason is that you need to coordinate the pricing in the international markets because you are selling in different countries the same product and it is being priced into different currencies. You're pricing it in say dirham, you're pricing it in dinar, you are pricing it in euros, you're pricing it in Turkish lira, you're pricing it in the dollar, US dollar. So one thing is that you have to come up with a price which is somewhat equivalent in different markets. It should not give the consumers an impression that this product, when it is being sold in say market A, it is cheap. When it is being sold in market B, it is expensive because of the dynamics or because of the changes in the foreign exchange rates. So in fact when some of you who will study the international finance will do a theory, and that is called of the product, the same product are also somewhat same across different markets, across different countries. And this has been very, this law of one price or the purchasing power parity, it has been very beautifully explained in a case. I would say if some of you are interested, you should find out the Mac Burger Index or the Mac Index, in which the researchers have over the years they have maintained this and they have tried to study that the basic McDonald's burger, it is being priced in different currencies, and when you convert that currency into other currencies, so they, when you compare the price, whether that price is equivalent or whether there are some disparities on between the price of the same burger being charged in different markets. So it makes a very very interesting topic for the students of management, because this is really an important job. It's a very very important task for the marketers to ensure uniformity in the pricing for the standardized products. Are we together?
So,
Okay. Some of the issues as yes, you want to ask any question? So, okay, I'll move further. As you can see here in this, for pricing, there are certain factors and influences that have to be looked into, like in the competitive environment. Like, and this becomes more important in the international markets. One is the gray markets, right? GRAY. Here the spelling is gray. Can anybody tell me any idea what is a gray market?
something which
Yes.
is illegal, sir, without proper document.
Okay, that is there. What else? What else?
We can say that its tax is not paid.
Yes, that is also there. And perhaps that's the reason why, sometimes some of the products in the gray market are available in the organized or the legal market, right? So it is an unorganized, illegal market. and it is a reality everywhere. You have a gray market where sometimes the original product or sometimes its copies or spurious products are also available, right? And they are available at a low price. So obviously it affects or it hurts the original product. You can find such kind of markets almost everywhere, wherein you can get the first copies at almost at a 1/10 or even 1/15 of the original price of the product, and it is as good as the original, right? You just cannot make out which is original and which is the fake one. So that is also there. You have issues related to the dumping, as we have been talking about, especially the the products which are made by the Chinese manufacturers, and they are being sold in the international markets at a very, very low price. So that also affects or hurts the market of those products which are being manufactured by reputed companies, right? But when I mean, it is a general tendency for most of the consumers, especially those who are coming from price sensitive countries or economies. You'll find that they often settle for product which is cheap, which is available at a lower price. So that is also an issue. You have issues related to the political environment, that is the transfer pricing, right? Or the price of protectionism. Sometimes in some of the economies, they give a protection to their indigenous industries by fixing up the prices. So that also is a, you know they add more duties on the imports so as to render them less competitive vis-a-vis the locally manufactured goods, right? Transfer pricing is yet another issue wherein, I mean, this is obviously country, the company related issues, wherein the companies, in order to uh, excuse me, in order to circumvent the taxes, they try to sometimes price their products at a much lower level. So that is also there, right? Inflation, exchange rates, shortage of hard currency, the counter trade, all these things are, they are going to affect the pricing stance. So we have already talked about these things. Now, coming to an important thing that is obviously uh, more important, that is the global pricing objectives and strategies. Now, as we have been discussing, that by adopting a suitable pricing strategy, the companies can, number one, register greater sales volumes, registering more sales, generating more revenues, leading to a greater market share. So, an increase in market share is also important. Plus, the return on investment, all the investment that has been made into the international markets, you need to have certain returns, right? So that you can, you can reinvest those returns into other markets. Plus, obviously, that is what actually gives you a feeling that your international venture or your business venture has been successful. So you have, I'm sure, you have already been exposed to some of these pricing strategies in the product life cycle approach. That one is, one on one extreme you have what you call as the penetration pricing, where you are trying to price the product lower than what your competitors or your rivals are offering in the market. So if you are offering a lower price, obviously it is basically with the assumption that the consumers are sensitive to the changes in the prices, and they are ready and they are able to identify the price difference between the competing brands. So if you are charging a lower price, it will help you in penetrating the market quickly, and before the market saturates, you will be able to gain a suitable market share, right? This may be a suitable strategy for uh, the common products, or as we can see, the fast moving consumer goods, or even in the consumer durables to a certain extent. This may be a suitable strategy. But when it comes to the premium products like watches, jewelry, cell phones, or similar products, in such cases, the other extreme is the market skimming. It is a strategy I'm sure you are aware of, that a product, when it is innovative, when it is new to the market, then it is offered at the, you know, at a premium price, at a very, very high price. And only those consumers who are, who belong to a category that they want to buy the novel products, who want to buy the latest products, so they are the ones who pay for such products and buy them. So, and later on only, such products get, you know absorbed in the other layers of the market. So in such a situation, the pricing is, it is a premium pricing. You're charging the best or the highest price possible, and once that layer is exhausted, then you gradually or marginally reduce the price so as to, the rope in the next layer of the market or consumers. So that is also a very, very suitable strategy. However, as we were talking about, uh, your product needs to be of high quality, it should be unique, and it has to have some kind of a snob appeal, or what you may call as some kind of a status based appeal for the consumers, right? So before we wind up, there are certain approaches, as and I'm sure you are already aware of. You have already done these approaches in marketing management. We are not going into the details, right? Because that lies beyond the scope of the courses that we are doing. They are only general in nature. So some of the approaches are the cost based approaches, the cost based pricing. The objective of such approaches is that you are trying to recover the cost of production, right? So whatever uh, expenses that have gone into which have been, uh, incurred in producing the product, so the idea is to recover those expenses plus earn a marginal revenue over and above the cost, right? So that marginal revenue minus the cost, that will give you the profit, right? So cost based approaches are, I mean, this is one of the most common approach, very, very simple approach. But in case of services, it is different and somewhat difficult, because in services it is very difficult to ascertain the cost of the different elements of service. For products, you know the cost of raw material, you know the cost of labor, you know the cost of machines, you know the cost of electricity that has been used up and everything. So you can always add up the total cost, and you can find out the per unit cost also. So that is easily, calculated. But when it comes to services, because services are intangible in nature and they're not very uniform, so they vary from person to person. So in such a situation, the cost-based pricing might not be a very feasible idea. Then other types of approaches are the market-based pricing. Here, the focus of pricing approach is different. It's like, you look at the market. What is being charged? What is the going rate? So sometimes the idea is that you become a price leader, leadership pricing. You have your own price based on your brand image. Suppose you have a strong brand, and it has a good recognition in the international markets. So in such a situation, you can assume the leadership position of the price that you are charging, and the rest of the market can become your followers. So you actually don't, you try to differentiate your product on the basis of price. And it is very common. Many times it happens that some products people buy because it has a somewhat different price, somewhat a higher price, and it gives some kind of a quality perception, right? Even if we are unable to identify that what is different with this product, what is unique with this product, but at the psychological level we try to pacify ourselves, or we try to convince ourselves that there must be something different, and that is why they are charging a higher price, right? So that is what happens when you are assuming the position of a price leader. The other is follow the competition positioning, what the competitors are charging. So you also try to charge a price somewhat similar, or you try to charge a closer price, so that the difference between the prices is not so much perceptible, and you also sell along with the rest of the brands. And the other option that is available is that below the competition positioning, you try to position yourself as an economy product. So that is altogether a complete, it is a different segment when you try to position yourself as an economy product. So naturally, your target segment becomes different, and you will be getting the consumers from that segment only. Now, one last thing before we wind up, that you have again the same thing as we have seen in case of uh, product policy and promotion policy, that whether you should go for a local pricing or standardized pricing. So local prices, as we see, that the prices are set to meet the purchasing power of the consumers and to account for differences in the distribution systems, market position, and taxes. So this is also, this is more closer to the individual markets. This is also, as I just mentioned here, known as the tailor-made pricing strategy to suit the market differentials of each country and segment. So the idea is that wherever, because of the taxes and other issues, if a product is expensive, so you just cannot do anything about it. But wherever the taxes are low, or other levies are less, so in such a situation, you should try to sell the product at a somewhat lesser price. Whereas the other strategy is the standardized pricing, trying to go for a common price across the markets. As I had given you a hint about the McDonald's index, the McBurger index, it tries to follow this policy of standardized pricing. It tries to assume, or it tries to achieve uh, the purchasing power parity uh, across its markets in different countries, and tries to ensure that its product is available at somewhat same price in all the markets. It should not give any the consumers some kind of a dissatisfaction against the brand, that this product is available at a lower price in, say, market B, whereas in market A it is available at a higher price. So it tries to avoid the consumers making such kind of discriminations or comparisons between pricing. So it follows the uniform price worldwide, and it is possible only for those firms that have achieved similar levels of customer acceptance and quality perception the world over. So you also have to have a standardized uniform product in order to go, in order to practice the standardized pricing. In some cases, now here, there are two more approaches. One is higher home market price and lower international market prices. Now, it may happen that in the home market, the product is expensive, and in the international market, the price is less expensive. Now, this may be possible, this may be rendered possible because of the lower labor or raw material costs in the international markets. So that is also a possibility, or strong local competition in the international markets, because of which you have to go for a downward revision of the price. Similarly, lower buying power of host country consumers. So based on the lower buying power of the host country consumers or the international markets, maybe you'll have to cut down on the prices that you are charging. Maybe another reason could be that you want to increase the market share by adopting penetration pricing in the international markets. So there is very much a possibility that in the home country, the prices are higher, and internationally, the prices are lower. And just the reverse would be there, that you have lower home market prices and higher international market prices. So this may be justified, this may be possible when there is no cost advantage to producing overseas. So in such a situation, obviously when you're producing in the home country and you are exporting it abroad, so the cost of transportation and the taxes and other things would add up to the price, and that would be result in higher prices abroad. Or sometimes you have no not much challenge from the international competitors, and so in such a situation also, given the nature of competition or virtually very less competition, in such a situation, the companies may be tempted to charge a higher price in the international markets. Limited market potential. So whether you have a low price or high price, if it is not going to you know do much to your market share, if it is not going to you know affect your the clientele. Sometimes this is possible in case of markets where the consumers are not price sensitive. The price elasticity of demand is uh, is equal to is less than one. In fact, it's you whether you increase the price or decrease the price, it's not going to affect your market share. So in such a situation also, you can if you are trying to sell your product, try to sell it at a higher price. And obviously if it is a market where the buyers can afford higher prices, then why not go for a higher price? So this is where we finish with uh, the the marketing management aspect of uh, international business. And next time when we meet, we'll start discussing the international operations. So thank you for joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.